like lots of startup founders, that what they really want is truly to make the world a better place. My name is Juho Makkonen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sharetribe. Our purpose is to democratize the so-called sharing economy. So essentially we want to take the power out of these giant Death Star platforms that are extracting lots of wealth while the people like using them are really often suffering, and we want to make it possible for everybody to create their own platform so that social enterprises and other organizations like that can do that. So basically, and we do this by making platform technology accessible to everyone. Yes, so we started our company 7 years ago, and first it was about, yes, this sharing economy thing is really great and it only has positive aspects to the society. So if we only build a company that like advances the sharing economy, that's enough. And then at some point became disillusioned when we learned about these big platforms like Uber and Airbnb, and that they were actually creating more problems than they were solving because of their need to kind of like, after taking on lots of VC funding, they really needed to grow and grow and grow. And suddenly where they came these moments where they actually should have slowed down their growth to actually make a positive impact, they couldn't do that anymore. And we realized that we don't want that. We want platforms that do things in a different way, and also we don't want to be an extractive Death Star giant ourselves. And when we were talking to people about this mission, like they would really often like tell us like, hey, like what prevents you from becoming one of them? Like, and then like we didn't have a good answer. Like we were on we have a traditional startup structure, like just like all these other companies. We even have had some investors on board. So we started thinking about like how do we solve this? Like can we do something about it? And then in 2017, like when we came across purpose and steward ownership, then it basically sounded like something that would solve our like all the things that we had been thinking about. Like this is really the form of ownership that like serves really what we want to achieve. Yeah, I think that if you think about many of the problems like of the world today, ultimately those people who make the decisions, those people who set the rules, they are the people who decide like what's happening to our environment, like how the wealth is distributed. So if that ownership is left to the hands of the few, then we might end up seeing a situation where they optimize their own situation and not optimize the situation of the whole. So if instead like we have a situation where these, for instance, companies are owned by a larger set of people and like are able to take their destiny into their own hands, then we will probably see them doing decisions that are like better for the people, that are better for the environment. I think it means, I really like the basic two principles. So first of all, that the most important for me is that the profits the company make, they're not the end in itself, they're only a means to an end, and they're means to achieve this big purpose that we have, democratizing the sharing economy. To me, that's the key aspect. The second principle I think is also important, which is that the control is held by the people who are actually actively taking responsibility of the company. Yeah, I think this is a question that every entrepreneur like should ask themselves, like what do they want to achieve out of life? Like why do they exist? And like for me, like exit is a non-goal. Like it doesn't serve anything that I want to achieve. Like what I want is obviously I need a level of income that I can like support my family and so on, but that's enough. So I'm not interested in like huge amount of money. Like like a smaller amount is more than enough, and I can get that like without doing an exit. Yeah, well, we've heard some of that. Surprisingly little, like I have to say though. Like still, some people have expressed some doubts, but mostly I still feel that like we've received encouragement. Like it really resonates with most people that I know, that okay, like most people, even in the startup world, like lots of startup founders, that what they really want is truly to make the world a better place, and like one way or another, and at some point that goal gets distorted when the vehicle you're doing that is that you raise lots of VC capital. At some point you lose control, and then you lose sight of what the better actually is, and you end up like optimizing some easily measurable thing like growth and like profit and that kind of things. But I think most startup founders, I'm like really know lots of people in the Finnish startup community, for instance, and mostly they've said that this is a really bold move, and some have said, well, yeah, maybe if only I had the courage to do the same. I feel that more and more people today, they are not seeking from their work like only the paycheck, but they are seeking to be part of something bigger, to actually do something that is beneficial for the world. And I feel that our steward ownership model allows us to give like a binding promise to all our stakeholders, including our employees. We exist because of like a bigger purpose. We don't exist only to generate like a profit for a small number of like wealthy shareholders or the founders and so on. So, and obviously this is very inspiring for our team, so that they actually get to be part of something that is doing something good for the world. And I think it's quite inspiring, at least if I would be buying from a company, I would be really inspired to know that actually they are following all these practices. So really like this money that I'm using to pay for these services and products is actually going towards some purpose that is actually benefiting the society. So that's very interesting to me. I think the role is not too different from what it is like in any other company, in the sense that in the beginning there are lots of inventions that in the beginning like you don't yet know like whether they will work. So some companies will succeed, some will fail, and really often it depends a bit on the industry, but in many cases some capital is needed in the beginning to kind of like to get ideas to the level where they can be sustainable and provide profit for the company. And the role of investors obviously is that they take some risk with their capital, and they can get rewarded by that, obviously both by seeing that invention actually come live, but actually also that it provides the company can provide some return to the original investor. It's super important to understand like who you are as a person. Like this is really about important part of why we did this, is that it just fits our personal goals, not only with the goals of our company, but for me and my co-founder as individuals, what kind of life we want. So what that essentially tell them that they should think about my colleague startup founders, what they want out of life. And so do they want the big exit? Do they want the like ups and downs of the startup roller coaster and VC funding and all that? Some people definitely do, and some others might want to build something in a more sustainable and longer term, and not be serial entrepreneurs who jump from one thing to another constantly. And then like if this is the right fit for them, then I definitely recommend them to take the leap. Yeah, the most important thing. So we in summer 2017, before here like learning about purpose and steward ownership, I essentially gave this presentation like to our team, like in our summer retreat, where I said most of the same things. This is what we want to do, but we didn't have the vocabulary. We didn't have the idea that actually this could be really like put down into the company structure in a way that it cannot be later changed, which obviously brings this credibility of like us actually making it really binding and communicating it to all stakeholders, which is super important. So it was like really what Purpose did obviously was it really opened up this possibility that hey, actually there is this company structure, and they really help with the obviously all the documents and all the legal work, plus also showing that hey, there are other companies that are doing this, like showing these examples and like learning about all this. That was like super vital, and obviously providing advice in lots of different things. So that their help has been like immensely important.